Hit record. So good morning, guys. I didn't know I was driving. I thought I was just a passenger on this train. So excited to be on here this morning. Excited to be, joining you all for the coaching Zoom. And we've got a good word today. And I feel like Coach said this was a word that I picked, but I don't think that's actually what happened. But we'll pretend. But our word is accountability. And I started digging into this and it kind of made me think of a couple of different things. And so hopefully I don't go on too many tangents and get too chatty, but I'm only half a cup of coffee in, so I think we should be okay. But the definition is the fact or condition of being accountable, responsibility, accepting responsibility. So it's pretty basic, right? If you just look at it on the surface, but I think that's the fun part of what Coach Palmer and Coach Miles do is they always dig a little bit deeper and you kind of get this whole different perspective. So I was just looking at it more, and what I'm going to say is that accountability is what separates the wishers from the winners. And it can come from a different place, a couple of different places, but I think it really, one of the powers of accountability is it stops victimhood. Because if I know what I'm accountable for in my life, and some things I am, some things I'm not, but own what I can and find the solution, take that personal responsibility and just say no excuses for those things that I can control. And I found a quote that it didn't tell me who said it, but it said you either hold yourself accountable or you'll be made accountable by your circumstances. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was so powerful, because how many times, I don't know, let's think, I'm going to go back to my college days. Maybe I shouldn't share this, but we'll just go back a little bit to college days. And I was a broke college student. Okay. So I worked full-time through college, but I didn't quite make enough working to pay for my tuition. I'm not athletic. Nobody was giving me a scholarship, but, I didn't quite make enough to pay for room and board and tuition and everything. So I needed to live off I saved before. So like I'd work really hard over the summer and make enough that with my job and what I was able to make over the summer, I could pay for my semester, right? But then life would happen, right? I'd go like an idiot. I'd go to the mall. I'd find a pair of jeans that I couldn't live without. And I didn't have the wiggle room in my budget. And that was a hard lesson for me. It's a ridiculous lesson. I understand that, but it was kind of the first time that I realized like I had to hold myself accountable to what I was not spending, or I was going to have to deal with the consequences, which was not eating, and had some months that were real tight. And it just came down to, I needed to hold myself accountable and realize, set my goal and live by it. Right. And accountability, this is a quote from Bob Proctor, which is accountability is the glue that ties commitment to the results. And, I work for myself. I know a lot of you guys work for yourselves, and it can be real easy to, get up in the morning and decide, that I'm going to go and do whatever I want to do because I don't have anybody kind of looming over my shoulder saying you need to be at your desk and you need to get X, Y, and Z done, or I may not. But I need to hold myself accountable, take that responsibility, make sure I'm productive throughout the day. And I'm going to say that a big part of accountability is it takes bravery. I'm going to talk about that in a second, but I think there's two types. There's probably more. But to me, I see really two types. One is personal, right? So kind of like what I was talking about, I set my standards, I set my goals, and then I look around and I acknowledge my reality, right? So what can I take accountability for? What can I change? What can I not? What are the problems that I personally need to find a solution for? And that really takes a lot of self-awareness. I have to be mindful of the obstacles that I can be creating, the ways that I'm maybe putting excuses between myself and my goals, and where I'm taking away my own personal power and causing myself to fail a little bit here and there. And that just takes brutal honesty with yourself and really just a lot of self-reflection, which takes a lot of courage, but I highly recommend that. And then I think there's another place that takes even more, and that's accountability to others. And that comes in a variety of ways. You know, our community, right? I know that I'm accountable to not fly down this road right here. And there's signs all over saying, we love our children, please slow down, which I think is a cute way to put it. But I know, like, personally, I'm going to make sure that I don't harm anybody else's child. That is accountability that I have to this community. We can, if you're an employee, we've got accountability to our boss, to our coworkers, other people that are holding us in check, business partners. But I'm going to say that there's a place that you can choose to have accountability that is the most powerful. And that's by getting yourself a mentor. And, you know, I think that is what has changed my life the most, because going on about 10 years now, I found myself a mentor. I didn't know that's what I was doing. I had never really even heard that term, but I found myself a mentor that has absolutely helped me change my life. But it truly can be one of the most brutal things. I've got big goals for my family in terms of, you know, my business, my finances, our future. And in order to have, you know, be held accountable to it, I have to be completely transparent. So as recent as yesterday, I was showing my bank statement to someone. And I don't know if that makes you guys feel like I'm a private person. I was raised, you don't talk about, well, there's three things: money, politics, and religion. Like, you do not talk about that with anybody. We can discuss that later if you want. But for me to say, you know, I've got this mentor that, you know, make sure that I'm saving and I'm doing the things with my money that I'm supposed to be doing. And I literally have to share, I don't have to, but I choose to share that information. But I'll tell you, if you take me back 10 years to where I'm at today, it's changed every aspect of my life. I share my daily to-do list. I share, not every day, but I'll go through cycles of that. My calendar, all of that. So it definitely, you know, it can be a little painful, right? It can take a little bit of courage, but it absolutely can change your life. So that was it for me today, Myra. I hope that brought a little bit of value to you and your people. And thank you for trusting me to talk to everybody this morning. I love you guys. And I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, that was great, Andrea. Thank you so much for sharing and stepping in for Brent. And I just want to say, Melinda, I am digging that shirt you got on, sister. Summer Jam. I see it. It's awesome. So, you know, Andrea, I thought did a fantastic job, and I'm actually going to go and I'm going to say some things in the accountability world that may, honestly, as I'm doing the preparation to get ready for this, I jumped onto something that I'd never heard of, but it makes so much sense. You know, taking responsibility for our own actions is what accountability is. Accountability is about high performance and not fear or stress. You know, we all hit that fear and stress category every day, probably, or at least 3 or 4 times a week. You know, we have to be willing to hold ourselves to a standard that improves our performance, and we must have a willingness to be held accountable by others. That's kind of what Andrea was just talking about. You know, when we're holding someone else accountable, we have to recognize and respect the power of intention. You know, and what I mean by that is, are we trying to help them or are we trying to belittle them? And I think everybody on this call would be trying to help. You know, the thing that I came across was a term that I'd never heard of, and it's called front-loading accountability. Some of y'all may have heard of that, but I have not. It's front-loading accountability. And it's a very simple philosophy. This is when, you know, we can share with our teams, we share with our groups, we share with our families, whatever, the specifics of what we are trying to attain. And we, from the beginning, from the front load of this, we are setting clear expectations, very clear expectations. Our team should be able to repeat it back to us. And this is something that is, I'm telling you, if you don't get anything out of today from me, I know you got tons of value from Andrea, but If you don't get anything out of this from me today, I want you to hear what I'm fixing to say. If you are trying to build your company, build your family, team, whatever, and you are talking to them about a process that you want to be put in place together with them, you got to be real clear from the beginning, and then take it a step farther, have them repeat it back to you or listen to what their interpretation could be. I'm telling you, that makes them stick. It sticks. It helps me. I have actually had people do that to me, and it helped me so much. If we use the front loading accountability approach, the relationships are going to be built even bigger, and they're going to be strengthened. Also, our individual teams and individual families, individual relationships, they're going to increase. The whole performance is going to increase. No one is guessing what's going on. Your job overall is a whole lot more satisfying. Accountability is a positive term describing commitments that in the eyes of others have been kept. Accountability is describing commitments in the eyes of others that have been kept. Accountability is constantly asking myself, asking you, how am I doing? We have to be honest with ourselves in order to be accountable. We have to be honest with the people that we care about to keep them accountable. If we front load our accountability expectations, like I said earlier, our relationships are going to be strengthened because we know we can count on each other. That accountability factor, we can count on each other. And finally, just to practically apply accountability, here's a few steps. Don't act like you know everything, because we don't. Lean on the wisdom of others. Be willing to say, I don't know. I used to do this on a daily basis as an athletic director and administrator. I don't know, but I would follow up with, I'll try to get you an answer by the end of the day or tomorrow. It's easy. Admit when we're wrong. Don't blame others. When we make mistakes, we need to be held accountable. We need to own it. And don't make excuses or get defensive. One of my favorite people in the whole world is Brenda Mays. She used to coach at Muscle Shoals High School. She's at East Mississippi Community College now as head women's basketball coach. She is a fantastic lady. And I used this quote that she said years ago in one of my camps that I had in North Alabama. She said, excuses are a sign of weakness. And an accountable person, you don't show your weakness by giving excuses. So be strong, be accountable today in everything that we do, and let's go out and just rock it and do whatever. I know I have been completely revitalized, thank goodness, since yesterday. And by the way, thanks for everybody. Guy had some great messages from everybody individually, and I appreciate that. So love y'all. Have a fantastic day. And again, Miss Andrea, thank you so much for joining us today and speaking your knowledge on us.